Delhi's often had a difficult relationship with its lush hinterland in Punjab. This land has seen the coming and going of many conquerors, from the Kushans, Huns, and Turks to the Mongols, Mughals, and Afghans. In more recent decades, Punjab has challenged prime ministers as it once challenged Mughal emperors. As the state heads towards elections in a few weeks, here's how Sikh farmers toppled an empire for the first but not the last time. Like many communities in North India, the history of the Sikhs begins with the Mughals, for better and for worse. In the mid to late 16th century, the bureaucracy of the Emperor Akbar, which was composed substantially of Banyas, Rajputs, and Brahmins, brought agrarian expansion to new frontiers. Trade links to Central Asia were revitalized and safeguarded, and encouraged by this stability, nomadic groups settled down in Punjab, and many local chiefs accepted the status of Mughal zamindars. These Punjabi chiefs were an ethnically and religiously diverse lot, and you can read more about them in this book. Think of it as a massive pyramid. At the bottom were Jat peasants who followed a variety of popular Brahminical and Sufi practices. Above them were Manj Rajputs, Kasur Afghans, and Banjara and Khatri traders. At the very top were Mughal governors who may have been of Uzbek, Persian, or even Indian descent. Now, all of these groups had a notion of its status in relation to others and the rituals that set them apart. Mughal emperors provided all of these martial people with prestige, employment, and loot. That bound them directly to the Mughal state in a delicate balance. In the 17th century, if you told any of these powerful groups that Sikhs would one day dominate Punjab, you would be laughed out of the bazaar. The Sikhs were, relatively speaking at the time, pretty much nobodies. They challenged the notion of caste purity and rituals, which by today's standards was like saying the earth was flat. They were also monotheists, denying the authority of Hindu gods. The early gurus were spiritual leaders, avoiding any claims to political authority. And as long as they did so, according to Mughal imperial memoirs like the Tuzuk-e-Jahangiri, they were tolerated by the Mughal state. According to the Emperor Jahangir's own account, a relatively minor act led to mounting disaster in Punjab. One of the Sikh gurus, Arjan Singh, offered a saffron forehead mark to the emperor's rebellious son Khusrau. The Mughal state, which was paranoid at the best of times, responded with absolute violence. The guru's property was confiscated and he was executed. But this only brought more attention to the Sikh gurus, and they now began to claim both moral superiority and political autonomy. This in turn brought worse Mughal reprisals. Before his assassination in 1708, the last Guru Gobind Singh possessed all the trappings of an early modern lord. He had a court, poets, and armed retainers. It was through this armed group, the Khalsa, that Sikh power would grow and explode. When Gobind Singh died, Sikhs, like the rest of Punjab, were a diverse lot. As historian Purnima Dhavan writes in When Sparrows Became Hawks, the making of the Sikh warrior tradition, the armed Khalsa were a minority within a minority, never more than 10% of Punjab's population. Their early texts stressed the superiority of Sikh teachings and emphasized Khalsa identity over caste and clan. They criticized Hindu gurus and rival Sikh groups. This wasn't a winning strategy in the clannish world of 18th century Punjab. The rise of the Khalsa involved major innovations on their part as well as fumbles from their rivals. The Mughal state, which was eternally short-sighted, tried to brand attacks on the Khalsa as a jihad, trying to mobilize Punjabi Afghan zamindars. The Khalsa, in retaliation, reinvented the older Sikh concept of Dharam Yudh, religious war against the Mughal state. Originally thought of as an internal struggle, this new formulation of Dharam Yudh had many more takers, especially among Punjab's oppressed Jat peasants. And so Jat chiefs flocked to Amritsar, where the Khalsa ran a collective at the site of the future Golden Temple. Here, loot from raids was shared among the growing Sikh community, in keeping with village traditions. Soon, these Jat chiefs became the leaders of armed war bands or missals. And despite the rhetoric of Dharam Yudh, missile leaders raided not only Afghan horse markets, but also Rajput zamindars to their south and the Punjabi-speaking hill kingdoms to their north. As new groups signed up, writes Professor Dhavan, the Khalsa evolved rapidly. The notion of a hierarchy was still rejected, but individual castes were quietly accepted. The Khalsa also adapted ideas from the Puranas, describing Guru Gobind Singh as a devotee of Durga and an avatar of Vishnu. Legends of gurus were grafted onto local beliefs and ballads. This was a winning strategy. As the 18th century continued to unfold, Mughal presence in Punjab, which was torn by infighting and external invasions, became more and more erratic. They were focused only on elites, but elites constantly changed sides. The Khalsa was focused on actual farmers and military labor, people who needed the security and honor that the Khalsa offered. A young man growing up in Punjab at the time could either become a lowly retainer for a Mughal, Afghan or Rajput lord, or a member of an up-and-coming small brotherhood of Sikhs with the right to a chiefly turban and various caste privileges, as well as the conviction of a divinely ordained victory sung to the hymns of gurus by the campfire. The choice was obvious. Within a single century, the very concept of a military man in Punjab changed from a Persian-spouting, robe-wearing Mughal zamindar to a Punjabi-speaking, turban-wearing Jat Sikh chief. The concept of us was no longer limited to individual clans and ethnic groups, which could be mopped up piecemeal by an empire. The diverse new Sikh missile war bands raided and battled each other, but instantly united against any outsiders. That's how, with a little flexibility, community spirit, and eyeing popular sentiment, the Jat chiefs of 18th century Punjab threw out the Mughal state. Religion was certainly part of it, but we should never ignore the part of an enthusiastic, aspirational peasantry in India's history. If you have questions or comments, we'd love to hear them. Follow us everywhere on social media. You can find me on Twitter at Kanisetti and on Instagram at Anirudh. We'll see you next week.